Okay, hello everyone. Okay, I hope you're all doing well, by the way. All right. So the next program in chapter 2 is distance traveled. All right. So assuming there are no accidents or delays, the distance that a car travels down the interstate can be calculated with the following formula. Distance is equal to speed times time. Now a car is traveling at 70 miles per hour. Write a program that displays the following. The distance the car will travel in 6 hours, the distance the car will travel in 10 hours, and in 15 hours. Okay, so we've been given a formula. Distance is equal to speed times time. Okay, we are supposed I'm sorry, I have a cough, so sorry about that. So we've been given a formula. We are going to find distance, and we've been given the speed that the car is traveling in. The car is traveling at 70 miles per hour. Okay, so we've been given a speed which is 70 miles over here, and the time has also been given to us. But we're going to find the distance, okay, based on the time and the speed. So we know the car is traveling at 70 miles, so we can plot in the time here. The speed here, and this is the time. So once we plot in 6 hours in this formula, and we use the speed which is 70 miles, we can find the distance the car will travel in 6 hours, and for 10 hours and for 15 hours. Okay. All right, so let me go ahead and start. Okay, so the first thing we should do is we've been given the speed. We've been given the speed, which is 70 miles per hour. So I'm going to go ahead and store the speed, 70 miles, in a variable, and I'll call it speed. Okay, 70. And since we've been given a formula, we can just go ahead and use it in a print statement. Okay, this way we can go ahead and say print, and I'm going to open quotation marks, and I'll say let's go ahead and say first in 6 hours. So now we're calculating for 6 hours. Okay, so in 6 hours the car will travel. So here's where here's where we have to calculate. Sorry for the cough. Here's where we have to calculate the distance if the car travels 6 hours at 70 miles per hour. That's going to be our speed. So I'm going to go ahead and concatenate this string to that calculation, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say in 6 hours the car will travel. Okay, we know distance is equal to speed times time. We know the speed is 70 miles. So I'm going to say, and remember we stored 70 in speed here, so I can use the variable and say speed times. We know we are calculating for 6 hours here, so we know the time in this instance is 6 hours. So I can go ahead and multiply by 6. By 6. Now I'm just going to be safe here and try to surround these two. This calculation with parentheses, just so I'm confident that it's going to evaluate, Okay, so in 6 hours the car will travel. I'm concatenating this with speed times 6, which is 6 hours. The speed has been given as 70 miles, and speed times time, which we've done here, is going to give us a distance when the car travels 6 hours. Okay, so there's a problem. Now, when this goes ahead and calculates, it's going to result in this case, an integer, right? So it's basically attaching this integer to the string. So the interpreter is going to be forced to convert this to a string so that it can display. But the problem is Java can't do that in an implicit way. So if I go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and debug this. And let me just go ahead and save this. All right. I need to find a way to kind of bookmark this. Anyway. Okay, so I'm going to create a folder for distance traveled. Okay, so when I go ahead and debug this, see it's complaining and saying that, where is it? Okay, so it's complaining and saying on this line, it can't convert int, which is the result of speed times time. It can't convert int object to a string implicitly. All right, it can't do it by itself. It can't convert it, it can't do that in an implicit way. So we have to go ahead and do it ourselves. We have to go ahead and do it explicitly. So I'm going to go ahead and do it in that way. I'm going to go ahead and type, I wish this would go away. I'm still getting used to this IDE. I'll figure it out, but for now let's go ahead and type. I'll just push this aside and see if I can. Okay, all right. Wouldn't even. Okay, anyway, so I'll go ahead and what's happening is it's on this line. So the error is on this line. So it's complaining it can't do it implicitly. So I'm going to go ahead and do it explicitly by converting it to a string with str, the function str. I'm going to start str and I'm going to surround this whole calculation in parentheses. Okay, so what I did was, I need to stop it. Okay, so when I stop it, the red highlight goes away. Okay, I didn't know. Well, I've learned something, so that's good. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and undo it. What I did was complaining. So it was complaining that it couldn't convert this integer, this result, which is an integer, to a string, implicitly. So I'm going to go ahead and do it explicitly by converting it myself to a string, and I'm surrounding it. The string is a function, str is a function. So I'm surrounding everything. Let me space it out so we can see in parentheses. So now it's going to convert all of this, okay, all of this to a string, and it can go ahead and concatenate a string to a string. That's not a problem for it. So I'm going to go ahead and debug it one last time, and it's going to go ahead and say, in 6 hours the car will travel 420. Let's concatenate another string to it and say mouse. Put a space here. Run it one last time and say, in 6 hours the car will travel 420 miles. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for 10 hours and 15 hours. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this whole line and repeat it. So I'm going to change this to, in 10 hours the car will travel, and I'm changing this the time, this time from 6 to 10, and over here I'm changing it to 15 hours. Sorry, 15 hours. The car will travel speed times 15 miles. Okay, and notice we are not crossing this line, which is the 80 character limit. I don't want to cross that. It's kind of like a Python thing. Okay, so I'm going to debug it. Sorry, my cough is bad. Sorry about that. I'm going to debug it and see we have everything. It says in 6 hours the car will travel 420 miles. In 10 hours the car will travel 700 miles. In 15 hours the car will travel 1050 miles. And notice we are using three separate print functions, and that's why it's by default the print function ends with a new line, break ends with a new line. So that's why they're all on separate lines. We can go ahead and do it with one print function too. We'd have to either use commas or use separators. Either use commas and then change the separator from a space to a new line character, or we can do it other ways too. But this also works, and this solves the question. All right, so we're done. Like, if you have any questions, please comment down below, and I'll do everything to respond to them. Sorry for my cough. I'm really sorry. It's been bothering me for a couple of days now. So sorry for my cough. If you have any questions, oh boy, I'm so sorry. If you have any questions, comments down below, and I'll do everything to respond to them. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time with the next program. Bye bye.